A quiet morning, a sunny trail, a young woman out for a walk in one of the safest suburbs of Phoenix. She never came home. What followed would shock the community, ignite a statewide manhunt, and leave a trail of digital breadcrumbs no killer could erase.
Brutal stabbing stuns Arizona suburb. Random act or targeted kill.
But who was she? Who would do this? And why here, on a trail bathed in sunshine with no one around to hear her scream? This is not just a true crime story. This is a story of obsession, illusion, and digital footprints that exposed a killer hiding in plain sight. If you've never been to Phoenix, Arizona, you might think it's just heat and desert. And yes, it gets hot, but there's a whole world beating beneath that sun. Start early and you'll see the locals hiking Camelback or Piestewa Peak, sweating before the city's even fully awake. Fitness here isn't just a trend, it's a lifestyle. The outdoors isn't a backdrop. It's the gym, the therapy, the playground. There are hundreds of miles of trails, cycling routes, even paddleboards gliding over desert lakes. It's rugged, beautiful, and surprisingly active. Culturally, Phoenix is more than cacti and cactuses. From vibrant murals to indigenous art exhibits and monthly First Fridays downtown, the city pulses with creativity from all corners: Latino, Native American, Southwestern, and modern. Hungry? You'll eat well here. Think bold flavors, Sonoran-style Mexican food, inventive chefs, and health-conscious cafes on every block. From gourmet dining to fiery food trucks, Phoenix knows food, and it's not afraid to spice things up. Sports, you're covered. The Arizona Cardinals bring NFL Sundays alive.
Big to Connor. Murray on the rollout, looking deep for Harrison! Marvin Harrison Jr. to the end zone! Touchdown again!
A little red thing on there. Go check the mail, and when it's Marvin Harrison Jr., you better check it twice. That doesn't happen often. What do we say about Kyler Murray? He's got to take over and own this thing. Those are the kind of plays that we got to see.
And a great effort.
And the Phoenix Suns? That team is the city's heartbeat come NBA season.
Nothing can stop me.
Education. This is home to Arizona State University. Innovation, ambition, and school pride that runs deep. Just down the road in Tempe, Arizona State University anchors a youthful energy. College football with the Sun Devils is a fall ritual, and the campus buzz spills into the streets and late-night spots.
It is a sold-out, and it is an angry Arizona State team. To the end zone. He's got it! I don't know if he got it. Jack Jones. That may be the dagger for the Sun Devils. Wobbly. The downfield shot to Ayuk. The foot race.
When the sun goes down, which, by the way, is a show in itself, Phoenix shifts gears. Downtown Phoenix delivers nightlife that keeps the vibe alive till sunrise. Rooftop bars, music venues, craft cocktails. The desert doesn't sleep early. Innovation thrives here, with a booming tech scene that's putting Phoenix on every entrepreneur's radar. A growing tech hub drawing in startups and talent from the coast. Innovation is part of the new identity. Phoenix is a city of sun and sweat, style and spirit. A little wild, a little polished, and endlessly evolving. You don't just visit Phoenix, you feel it. But even in a city bathed in sunlight, shadows sometimes fall. On April 29, 2023, the body of a young woman, vibrant, full of life, was found on a familiar hiking trail just beyond the city's edge, a day after she went missing. Her name was Lauren Heike, 29 years old. a vibrant, kind-hearted woman who had recently moved to Phoenix, Arizona in search of new beginnings and sunshine. Lauren was born on June 20th, 1993 in Washington State. She grew up in a tight-knit family in the Seattle area, the only daughter of Jeff and Lana Heike. Her parents often described her as a beacon of light, compassionate, curious, and deeply empathetic. She was raised in a Christian household, and her faith remained an important compass throughout her life. Lauren graduated from Kentwood High School, where she excelled not just academically, but also in social circles. Friends remember her as someone who would drop everything to help another person, someone who smiled easily, laughed often, and never let anyone sit alone. She later attended Washington State University, where she studied communications and developed a growing interest in beauty and wellness. Her career path led her to become an esthetician, working in skincare and helping clients feel confident in their own skin. It was more than a job for her. It was a passion. But there was more to Lauren than just her work. She loved nature. She loved hiking, journaling, and starting her mornings with movement. For her, being active was a way of reconnecting with her soul. That love of movement, of quiet trails and desert sunrises, is what drew her to Phoenix in the spring of 2023. She had only recently made the move, looking for a reset, both personally and professionally. Phoenix promised warmth, clarity, and possibility. It was her next chapter. Her parents supported the decision, even if it meant she'd be far from home. They stayed close, FaceTiming regularly, exchanging daily texts. There was never a question of how much love existed between them. She came to Phoenix to build a new life, but just days into this journey, that hope, her entire future, was stolen. On the morning of April 28, 2023, Lauren put on her sneakers, grabbed a water bottle, and headed out for a solo walk on the Reach 11 trail. It was a route she'd taken before. Peaceful, familiar.
Lauren never made it home.
Her body was found the next morning, hidden off the main trail, brutally stabbed 15 times. She was still wearing her headphones.
Phoenix 911, where is your emergency?
Oh, I just found a woman's body out in the desert, and I was just going for a walk, and she's there. I didn't touch her. I didn't see her face, but it looks like she's been there for a while.
On April 28, 2023, Heike started a walk on the Reach 11 trail near her North Phoenix apartment. Phoenix police say she was then ambushed and chased to a deserted area before being stabbed 15 times.
She looks like in her mid-20s, maybe 30.
Okay, did you get a clothing description? Did you see what she was wearing?
Workout clothes. She's in workout clothes, and it doesn't look like she's breathing.
Okay, and you can't see her chest rising or falling?
No. And there is blood coming from under her workout bra.
Blood coming from her bra? Does it look like she was stabbed or shot?
I don't know. I can't tell.
It was a scene that didn't make sense. There was no robbery, no known enemies, no apparent motive, just a young woman ambushed on a public trail in broad daylight. The case left more questions than answers, and it would take a digital footprint, a trail camera, and an unexpected phone call to start unraveling the truth. With no weapon, no witnesses, and no clear suspect, the investigation into Lauren Heike's murder felt like chasing shadows, but Phoenix police weren't letting this one go cold. Authorities canvassed the surrounding neighborhoods, knocked on doors, combed the trail system. Detectives poured through every available video feed, from residential ring cameras to nearby traffic footage, hoping for just one glimpse. And on May 1st, they got it. One home camera captured a man running away from the area near the trail. Alone, in a rush, and out of place. The footage wasn't crystal clear, but the man's build, gait, and movement were distinct, a possible lead. But they needed more. Then came the break investigators had been waiting for. Lauren's shoe had been recovered at the crime scene, and on it, DNA. A single genetic fingerprint, one drop, left behind by her killer. The sample was run through CODIS, the combined DNA index system. Days later, they got a match.
We begin our 6 o'clock hour with the latest from police after they arrested a suspect in the death of Lauren Heike. Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us for 12 News at 6. I'm Kariba Devine.
I'm Mark Curtis. The 29-year-old was hiking along a North Phoenix trail when police say she was attacked. But tonight, a suspect is behind bars, facing first-degree murder charges.
William Teasley.
Teasley was released from prison in November of last year after serving less than a year and a half behind bars for committing a spree of armed robberies at Circle K's in the Valley. Records show he met with his probation officer the morning of May 3rd after Heike was killed.
Our detectives have been working tirelessly around the clock.
Those detectives linking Teasley to the crime through a DNA match, examining one of Heike's shoes discarded on the trail.
Zion William Teasley.
Zion Teasley was a young man caught between worlds. At 22, he was living with his mother in Phoenix, trying to find direction, but internally, he was unraveling. From the outside, Zion might have seemed like any other young man trying to find his way, but peel back the layers and you'll uncover a history riddled with instability, confusion, and inner conflict. He'd been raised in a deeply religious household. Zion was baptized Christian, but in his early adult years, he began to wrestle with identity and belonging. He reportedly struggled with gender dysphoria, and those close to him said he experienced deep emotional conflict about his body, his faith, and who he was supposed to be. He was spiraling in silence, torn between what he believed, how he felt, and what he saw in others, especially in women like Lauren, bright, blonde, fit, free. Zion allegedly saw in her what he believed he could never be. According to sources close to the case, he didn't just envy Lauren, he fixated on her. She wasn't a stranger to him in his mind. She was a mirror. Lauren represented everything Zion reportedly wished he could be. Outgoing, confident, physically radiant. She was, in his eyes, the embodiment of what he felt he wasn't. He didn't know Lauren personally. They weren't friends. They didn't have a shared past. But to Zion, Lauren became an obsession. Authorities believe he had watched her, possibly followed her. His behavior leading up to the murder had turned erratic. He was unemployed, unstable, and emotionally unanchored. This wasn't about robbery. It wasn't about rage. It was about identity, a twisted internal storm of confusion and longing. Investigators believe he targeted Lauren because, deep down, he wanted to be her. But his struggle doesn't excuse the horror. In that identity crisis, Zion Teasley allegedly made a fatal decision to destroy the very image he admired rather than confront the pain inside.
Lauren Heike, age 29, taken too soon.
Inside that Phoenix interrogation room, Zion William Teasley sat across from detectives, silent, guarded, calculating. He wasn't fidgety, he wasn't emotional, he gave off an unsettling calm, as if he'd rehearsed this moment. Investigators came prepared. They laid out the evidence, surveillance footage placing him near the crime scene, the DNA on Lauren's shoe, and phone records tracking his movements. But Zion didn't confess. In fact, he danced around their questions, speaking in vague philosophical tones. According to detectives, he referenced God, morality, and even suggested he was being persecuted for his beliefs. He never directly denied killing Lauren, but he never admitted it either. One detective described him as eerily self-aware, like he knew exactly how much time he could stall, how far he could go without slipping up. But it wasn't enough. The forensic trail was too strong. On May 5th, 2023, just one day after his arrest, Zion Teasley was formally charged with first-degree murder in the death of Lauren Heike. His bond? Denied. Prosecutors argued he was a danger to the public and a serious flight risk. And given the brutality of the attack, 15 stab wounds, some inflicted while Lauren was still running, it was clear the charges wouldn't stop at murder alone. He was also facing charges for the intent to commit another felony during the crime, possibly kidnapping. The prosecution was painting a picture of premeditated violence fueled by obsession and identity confusion. As Zion sat in his cell, awaiting trial, the world outside mourned Lauren's loss. Her friends and family organized vigils. The trail where she lost her life became a place of both pain and remembrance. And the community of Phoenix? They were left asking how someone so unknown could become so dangerous, so fast.
Case, what was your reaction when you found out he was caught?
Relief, because I walk this every day.
Neighbors there say the trail is a popular spot.
If you go right up Scottsdale Road here, right at the Princess, there's access to that trail system. So I know a lot of the residents here take their dogs up there and walk up there themselves.
Many locals were nervous leaving their homes before the arrest in an area they generally considered safe.
Very disheartened. I actually moved to this area because of the safety. Kind of a sigh of relief, yes, to know that he's not still out there.
Now that Teasley is behind bars, neighbors' thoughts turn to Heike's family.
I can't imagine what her family is going through right now. Thoughts and prayers are with her.
And there are signs out here on that trail where Heike was found dead, warning people to not walk by themselves, avoid suspicious activity, along with some information about what happened to Heike out here, urging people to use extra caution. Absolutely a devastating story, definitely rocking this community. I'll send it back to you, John. Reporting live in North Phoenix, Irene Snyder, Fox 10 News.
Within hours of the news breaking, the story exploded across Phoenix, and soon across the nation. A beautiful, active young woman killed during a hike, a suspect with a chilling background, the perfect storm for media frenzy. Lauren Heike's face was everywhere. The story resonated deeply, especially with women, outdoor enthusiasts, and true crime communities. Suddenly, everyone was asking the same question. How safe are we, really, when we're just out living our lives? But the conversation didn't stop at safety. Once the suspect was identified, the narrative deepened. Zion William Teasley's background, his faith, his gender identity confusion, his mental health history, added a layer of cultural debate that divided public opinion. Some demanded mental health reform, others focused on criminal justice, and many feared the conversation would lose sight of what really mattered: Lauren, a young woman who should still be here. In the flood of headlines, one thing was clear. Lauren's story had reached hearts far beyond Arizona. From coast to coast, her name became a reminder of how quickly a peaceful day can turn tragic, and why every voice demanding justice matters. No story of tragedy is complete without understanding the lives it leaves behind. For Lauren Heike's family, life stopped on April 28, 2023. The vibrant, joyful daughter they raised was taken in an act of senseless violence. And in the weeks that followed, grief turned into purpose. Lauren's parents became advocates for justice, appearing in court, speaking to the press, and making sure their daughter's memory wasn't reduced to headlines. In their words, Lauren lived with joy, loved freely, and deserved the world. And now they fight so her story prevents the same fate from touching another family. But on the other side of the courtroom sat another family, Zion Teasley's. His mother, a devout Christian, had long raised her son with faith, structure, and values. But no upbringing could compete with the silent battles he fought inside. Loved ones of Teasley reportedly struggled to reconcile the boy they once knew with the man accused of such a brutal crime. Friends said he was lost. His mother, heartbroken, avoided cameras, but courtroom sources say she wept quietly through every proceeding. The pain wasn't one-sided. Two families, worlds apart, both mourning a future they had imagined, now permanently erased. For Lauren's family, it's the loss of a daughter. For Zion's, the loss of a son to a darkness they never saw coming. This is what violence does. It doesn't just destroy the victim, it ripples outward, breaking hearts on every side. With Zion Teasley now behind bars, the legal machinery began to turn. This wouldn't be an open and shut case. The prosecution had DNA. They had surveillance footage. They had motive. But they knew they were walking into a complex legal battle, one where mental health, identity struggles, and character profiling would collide in the courtroom. Zion's defense attorneys began hinting early at psychological issues. Rumors swirled about possible mental health evaluations, past trauma, and religious delusions. The defense team's early strategy appeared to be rooted in confusion, a fog of faith, gender dysphoria, and identity instability. But the prosecution wasn't buying it. To them, it was methodical, planned, personal. Detectives testified to Zion's behavior, his deliberate evasion of cameras, his calculated silence during questioning, and the disturbing nature of the crime. Prosecutors pushed for a trial date while continuing to build a narrative of premeditation. They painted Zion not as a man confused, but a predator, fully aware of his choices. The courtroom was set. Phoenix would soon hear the details, but outside that legal world, a very different story was unfolding. As of now, the story of Lauren Heike's murder is far from over. What we have are pieces of evidence, of trauma, of lives forever changed, and a case that is still unfolding. Zion William Teasley, the man arrested in connection with Lauren's killing, has pleaded not guilty to charges of first-degree murder. His trial has been officially scheduled for January 2027, nearly 4 years after Lauren was found lifeless along that quiet Phoenix trail. In the courtroom, Teasley appeared composed, but the weight of what he's accused of looms large: stalking, ambushing, and murdering a woman he allegedly targeted for deeply disturbing and personal reasons. Prosecutors have laid out strong forensic links, most notably his DNA recovered from Lauren's shoe, which matched a sample already stored in CODIS due to his prior criminal history. Despite the mounting evidence, under U.S. law, he remains presumed innocent until proven guilty. And that is where we are now. A case waiting to be fully heard, a community waiting for answers, and a family waiting for closure. Lauren's family continues to attend every hearing. Every delay, every update, every procedural twist is another wound opened again. Still, they stand firm. Publicly, they've asked for peace and privacy, but privately, they carry the burden of unimaginable grief. And while the justice system moves slowly, Lauren's memory moves swiftly, in hearts, in headlines, and in every step taken down that trail where she once walked full of light and life. The world will watch in January 2027. But until then, justice remains pending, and silence surrounds the final truth. Lauren was doing something so many of us take for granted: getting fresh air, moving her body, clearing her mind. But in the aftermath of her murder, thousands of people began asking, "Am I really safe out here?" In Phoenix and beyond, community forums sparked a debate about trail safety, self-defense, and the need for updated surveillance systems in public parks. There were calls for better lighting, more police patrols, and free safety classes for women. Lauren's legacy became more than a memory. It became a mission. Her friends and family launched awareness campaigns, pushing for action and remembrance in equal measure. And across social media, thousands used her story to spark vital conversations around violence, mental health, and identity. But perhaps the biggest takeaway is a quiet one. Lauren's death forced us to confront uncomfortable truths: how predators can hide in plain sight, how inner confusion, when ignored, can turn volatile, and how justice, while essential, can never fully restore what's been lost. So where do we go from here? We go forward. We look out for each other. We demand better systems. And most importantly, we remember Lauren Heike. Not just for how she died, but for the light she carried into this world. Stories like Lauren Heike remind us of the fragility of safety and the strength we find when a community comes together in the face of tragedy. Lauren's life was full of joy, potential, and love. She should still be here, lacing up her shoes for another hike, laughing with friends, living fully, maybe calling her mom after yoga, or planning the next chapter of her life under Arizona's wide open sky. But instead, we are left to tell her story, not to scare, but to illuminate. To say, this happened, let's never let it happen again. Instead, her name is remembered in hashtags, in headlines, and in the hushed heartbreak of a grieving family still waiting for justice. But Lauren's story, like too many before her, isn't just a tragedy. It's a mirror, and it's a warning. We often think of danger as something distant, a late-night alley, a stranger in the dark. But Lauren was doing something so ordinary, so human. A walk in the sun, a breath of peace, and it ended in violence. In a society where women are still forced to think twice before lacing up their sneakers, we have to ask, how are we still here? The reality is this: according to U.S. crime statistics, nearly 1 in 3 women experience violence in their lifetime. Many cases go unsolved. Others are mishandled. Some, like Lauren's, gain public attention. But behind every name we know, there are thousands we don't. This case is not just about catching a killer. It's about what we do next. How do we build safer trails, safer systems, and safer spaces for women to exist without fear? How do we balance personal freedom with the dark realities of the world we live in? If you've stayed with me through this story, thank you. Thank you for choosing to care, to listen, and to honor a life taken far too soon. The world changes not through silence, but through awareness, through attention, through voices. If Lauren's story stays with you, let it move you. Let it start conversations. Let it lead to better policies, better awareness, and better protections. And most of all, let it remind us to never become desensitized to stories like hers. Lauren wasn't just a victim. She was a daughter, a friend, a radiant light, and her story deserves more than silence. As we close this episode, I encourage you, share Lauren's story. Talk about safety, trust your instincts, support victims and their families, because justice doesn't end with a verdict. It begins with remembering. I'm Suada, and this has been another episode of Suada's Crime Files. If this story moved you, consider hitting that like button, subscribe, share, and turn on your notification bell so you never miss an episode. This helps me grow and helps other true crime junkies find me. In next episode of Suada's Crime Files, we travel to the land of Nelson Mandela, South Africa, a land rich in history and resilience. But this time, the spotlight is on a crime that horrified the nation. A young girl, just 6 years old, was reported missing. What began as a desperate search soon unraveled into something far more sinister, a deal with a traditional healer involving unspeakable motives. Allegedly sold for the use of her eyes and skin in ritual practices. The person behind this unthinkable act? Someone who was supposed to love and protect her, her mother. We unpack the cultural complexities, the chilling investigation, and the betrayal that left a country reeling. I dive deep into the investigation, cultural context, and the chilling details that left a country in disbelief. Until then, stay aware, stay safe, and never stop asking for justice.